Values are what you value, what you think is important. So it's really interesting because you said, I've been thinking about values a lot. And people don't often even get to that point of thinking about their values. Normally, someone has to point it out to them. I don't think values have to limit you. I think they can release you so that if you become clear of what's truly important to you, the decision's then made.
Do you think values change over time?
They can change because you've made value number one a habit. And secondly, they can change because we value things depending on what's happening to us at that time. So again, you have children. So let's say what you valued when you were raising them from the ages of 0 to 5, or what you value when you're pregnant, which is different to what you value once you've had children, or what you value when you're studying, which is different to what you value when you have your first job or your fifth job, or you're towards the end of your career. Every stage of life, you will value something slightly different. So yes, there are these core values that almost might never change, or you decide they're so important to you that you don't have to change them. And then there are values that are serving you for a period of time.
Welcome to the 51%, the podcast where we cut through the noise and get back to basics when it comes to women's health. Through expert insights and powerful personal stories, we help you tune in to what really matters. Your body, your well-being, your life. No one-size-fits-all advice, just real conversations to help you understand your health on your own terms. But before we dive in, I have a quick favour to ask. Please hit subscribe and join the 51% community on our website. It's free and it helps us grow, reach more women and create events that really speak to the health and wealth challenges we all face. And finally, just so you know, everything shared on this podcast is for information only. It's not medical or financial advice, and always speak to a qualified expert for support. Mandeep, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on. I am really excited about this conversation because values are something that I've been thinking about a lot, like seriously a lot. And I think it is so important to understand what your values are. And I know there's a lot to unpack there because a lot of people can get confused by values, what that means as well, because sometimes there's core values, which are, just a couple or 2 or 3 values that people might have, or that, there's such a long list of values. But anyway, please could you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do, your background and what you're doing now? That would be great. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you for having me, Shreya. I'm Dr. Mandeep Rai, or as you saw on this book, Dr. M.K., K for core, Rai Dillon. And yes, I'm the author of The Values Compass, and I work in the space of values in companies, with countries, with individuals. So it's really interesting because you said, I've been thinking about values a lot, and people don't often even get to that point of thinking about their values. Normally, someone has to point it out to them. Is there something that happened for you to go on that journey yourself?
I think for me, I've been feeling sometimes where something's not sitting right with me, and I've been trying to unpack that and really understand that. And it drew me to values, and I've realised that when I'm not aligned with my values, I don't feel comfortable.
Give me an example, because this will reveal a lot.
Dishonesty, manipulation. When that's going on, I feel really uncomfortable, and it just doesn't feel right with me. And also when there's injustice going on, I feel really uncomfortable, and I feel like I have to speak out. And sometimes I do speak out and cause probably a bit of trouble, or say things that probably people don't want to hear.
Okay,
so,
let's take injustice. Are you the firstborn, or second, or third?
I'm the only child.
Oh, you're the only child. Okay. Yeah. So what injustice have you seen lately, or did you feel really in your gut?
I think growing up, my generation, I'm 49, so I grew up in the 70s, 80s, and I saw a lot of racism around me. I was very lucky. I grew up in a very, very liberal household, especially for a South Asian, and I felt lucky, and I felt that because I saw a lot of other South Asian women, especially as I said, women experience a lot of. No, you must be in the kitchen. No, you must. There are a lot of rules that were very different to
How you grew up.
how I grew up, and I didn't have those rules, and I found it really unfair. But then equally, because my parents came from India and my father came from East Africa, there were other rules in place that my friends that were white didn't have it at all.
Yeah.
So there was that conflict in the household. Why can't I go out until late? My friends are going out, if they weren't Indian, these kinds of things.
Yeah. So, exactly that. I kind of expose the best values of each and every part of the world. Because I don't think values have to limit you. I think they can release you so that if you become clear of what's truly important to you, then the decision's then made.
Yeah.
Even if you have complicated decisions to make, like, I don't know, if you are driving a train and there are 5 people in front of you and potentially your train can smash into them, that kind of dilemma you might have. But if you then put the brake on, you would actually, maybe you would injure them, but here you would definitely kill. Odd kind of dilemmas like that. It makes you clear as to what actually you value and takes the moral judgment out of it. So it's not saying one's good or bad. If you are coming from a place that's really resonating with you, then it's so much easier. And actually your quality of life is so much better. You sleep better. You breathe deeper. You eat and are able to digest your food. It's that cellular and molecular.
Yeah. So I just want to read something that I read in your book, and it's not, it was written by, Mahatma Gandhi, and it's at the beginning of your book. And I just want to read that out because I want to kind of unpack that a little bit because there's lots to it. And then at the end, it leads to the values. So your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. Now, what I'm getting from that is what you believe is almost at the beginning, right? Now, as you're growing up, what the things that you start believing.
You could have said, though, your values right at the beginning. It could be your values leads to your destiny.
Right.
Because your beliefs are stacked on top of your values. It like the values part, it's the subconscious part, it's the foundation, it's the underlay, if you will.
Yeah.
And then everything else stacks up onto it.
Okay. So with beliefs then, where does that come from and how does that kind of unfold into values? Because from my point of view, how I'm understanding it is when I'm born, you're born with a completely clean slate, right? And then because of your parenting, your environment, your friends and your colleagues, you start forming certain beliefs. This is a bit subjective, I guess. If those beliefs are not good, do you then grow up with values that perhaps might not be very positive?
When you're growing up, you are being conditioned. And that conditioning is either serving you or not serving you. But there is something much you aren't your thoughts. I know your thoughts lead to your destiny, but you're not actually your thoughts. They're just playing out. You're not really your body. You're encased in a body. And So it's almost as if what is underneath all of that, cradling all of that. And when you settle into that, you're almost able to tap into a much deeper place. And that place, is it or isn't it informed by values? I would say that your values, as you said, yes, there's that level of nurture, how you're being nurtured, but there's a deeper level of your nature. So what actually is important to you will be a combination of the two. And what you're able to do is step back a little bit so that you're not just triggered all the time by your beliefs, but rather you're able to step back, give it some space, and then choose afresh so that it's not just coming from automatic response.
You talk about family in your book, and that's almost, that's at the very beginning of your book. You talk about that moment where you wanted to apply to go to Oxford University, and there was
where I got in.
Got in,
yeah.
And it was that moment of your mother saying, "I'm not sure about this because you might end up becoming like this or behaving like this. So
you might marry a white guy called Sebastian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You might marry a white guy called Sebastian. And then I think there was it drugs and things like that?
She thought about all kinds of pressures that might be on me. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you unpack that then? Because there are a lot of things going on there with the way, you're battling against what your parents expect of you and what you want to do in life. And of course, you talk about your parents. Obviously, they came from a different country, different generation here. And of course, they're going to be scared and worried, because it's a completely different culture. It's a completely different situation they're in, and obviously exposed to racism and things like that as well.
Yeah, you saw the racism. It was very intense.
Yeah.
Really, what my mother was trying to say was that I want you to be well, safe, happy, right? That's all we want for our children.
Yeah.
And she thought that would come from marrying within the community, within the culture, and settling down and having that kind of safety net, if you will. Being settled, being secure. And I still feel like this, that my happiness comes from, I have this thirst for knowledge and growth, and, I'm curious, and I want to reach for the stars if I can.
Yeah.
So, and we both want our happiness, but we're both valuing different things to get us there. So she thinks that security and stability will get me there. And I almost think freedom and exploration will get me there. Now, if I had known about this values work when I was 20 or 19 or 18, when this decision was being made, I would have said to her, it's okay, Mum. I know you want me to be safe and happy, and we'll make sure that'll happen. It just doesn't have to happen now, or we don't need to worry so much about it right now, because we'll get there. And we can get there with both of us meeting this objective of happiness, rather than kind of shoehorning it in from one perspective. And I could have just assured her that I understood what she was valuing and that stability would come. And I think that's the power of understanding both our own values and other people's values, because you can, it really helps with mediation and conflict, because you're able to say, I get that I worried you, or I'm sorry that this happened, but actually we're both wanting the same thing. We're just coming at it in a slightly different way.
Yeah. I guess at that age, it's not really something that you think about, values. And I know I have my values and my children have their values.
Yeah, we were just speaking about your children.
Exactly.
Their ages are exactly that, right?
Yeah.
You have a 19-year-old daughter.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's how you what language are you using to get that across? You know, the values are probably underlying, they're probably the same, but it's just the language we're using is very different. And I guess that's where the miscommunication comes, and the battles could come as well.
Maybe the values are the same, but maybe they're not. So, for example, I thought I knew what our family values were. I thought they were respect, education, and family. That were, you know, these are core to our family.
Yeah.
And my son has since taught me, no, if it doesn't include the value of fun, he's really not interested in the other three first. You know, it needs to have that. So we think that, our values are all the same. We're one family, but it's really important to explicitly have that conversation.
So in unpacking values, like I said, I had a kind of moment of some things aren't sitting right with me. And I realized this is because what I'm doing or what things around me, whatever's going on isn't quite aligned with my values. And this is why I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable. How do people even start understanding what their values are, and what is the meaning of values? Let's ask that question first, because some people don't really understand that, and then move on to how can you unpack what your true values are and then try and live by them.
Okay, so what are your values? Values are what you value, what you think is important. And it's hard to unpack that. If I just ask you directly, what are your values? It's very hard to answer that question.
Yeah.
If I ask you, what was a time when you felt unsettled, which, you were able to answer, it was easier to answer that.
Yeah.
Or a time when it felt like someone had just punched you in the stomach, then that becomes, you remember that. Or you remember a time when you felt so, on edge. Like all of these are bodily signals, and actually your body talks much faster than your mind, or before your mind is able to decipher all of that. So already you become closer to what is important to me, because you don't have to always get there you can get there from a happy time and a happy place, but you can also get there through that jarring moment. And that jarring moment has left a bigger impression on your mind, unfortunately. And so the book is designed so that of all the possible 100+ values that there are in the world, it helps you get to your top 5. Helps you almost cut away all the noise and settle on something that's not overwhelming. So it's not more than 5, but it's also not too biased or too lopsided or too narrow or too focused as to have less than 5, because then it's too skewed. And then there's an even better trick, because it helps you actually prioritize those. So once you've got to number 1, most important, and then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, you really do have a compass that is able to navigate you. You've decided, it's very clear what is important to me. You've already put that as number 1.
Yeah. So what kind of, you mentioned a couple of questions. Are there any other questions you could ask yourself to get to your, 3 to 5 values, I guess? And you say that 5 is the kind of ideal number that you want to get to.
Yeah. So I have this kind of card game where all these values are written on these cards. So one would say community or happiness or excellence or nature, or, you kind of get a sense of all these different values. And then even in just putting those cards down, you're able to say, if it's a maybe, or if it's a maybe, already it's a no. Right. Just put it in the no pile, or put it in the maybe pile, which is eventually the no pile anyway. The ones that are firm yeses, those, and normally you'll have a few more than 5, but those are the ones that you'll be able to see, yes, okay, I've chosen, for example, freedom and autonomy. Now, they're both kind of mean the same thing. They're overlapping, or integrity and honesty, or, there are so many that is quite similar. And it helps you figure out, okay, well, now out of the 2, what's most important to me? Which is really, out of freedom and autonomy, yes, I want to have autonomy, but actually I really value community. But yes, I need freedom at times, or freedom is important. Or, so even when they're overlapping, you're able to kind of separate them and take the one that's most accurate for you. It's quite a physical act, and that helps also.
And once you discover what your values are, what can that bring to you? How can that really help you, guide you throughout life, really?
So I don't know if you have I definitely have a drawer at home where I keep all like old cards and old letters and things that have moved me. And when I sift through that, it lifts me with such joy. Also like pictures or memories of, and already that is taking you towards what lights you up, what gives you joy, right? So as you become, your question was like, what difference does it make when you have these values?
Yeah. Once you know your values, because I think, like I said, a lot of people go through life not really figuring out their values. It's not something that, an exercise a lot of people do,
and it's so like, honestly, 15 minutes of doing this with the book, and you've got a foundation for the rest of your life.
I think it, and this is why I wanted to speak to you and talk about this, because I think knowing your values, it's a game changer. It really is. I think it's so important to know, and I hope the book helps people unpack that as well. But so what I'm saying is,
and in a really kind of easy to digest way, because it's only 2 pages per chapter. In fact, you could read the introduction and conclusion and get there, right? Like it's a really easy way of doing it, but a critical way.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, once you know your values, how can that enrich your life? And so I'm asking, what's important of you? Why is it so important that you understand what your values are, and really unpacking that, and at least spending some time on that?
Because as I was talking about that box of joy, or the drawer of joy, it leads to, when you know your values, like that angst of what to do, where to turn, what to prioritize, what to choose. And we make millions of decisions every day, and decide is literally going one way and cutting off another. And so when you're when you're having to do that, if you're not clear about your values, one, it's very hard to do that, very time consuming. It's stressful. It leads to sometimes many decisions that you have to reverse that aren't easy. I mean, it's just an awful place to be.
Yeah.
And when you're able to have that clarity through your values, it's like 15 minutes and you've decided, okay, for this period of time, these things are important, or these values are important. Then you don't have to question yourself again and again. It brings, as His Holiness says on the front of the book, it brings greater success, fulfillment, and happiness.
Do you think values change over time? As in once you've found your values, say, if I was fortunate enough to discover what my values were in my, 20s, as an example.
Oh, if you were.
If I was fortunate enough to discover my values, I think some of my values they've stuck throughout, and I know that now, because I know when I was in my 20s, there were those situations where I wasn't feeling comfortable, and I know exactly why, and it's still the same now. But when you are fortunate enough to discover your values, and say I found them in my 20s, could my values change in my 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on?
Yeah. So I don't know if you picked up on it, but on one of my answers I had said your values for a particular period of time, meaning that firstly, they can change because you've made value number 1 a habit. So you no longer need it as a value. It's already habitualized. It's automatic. You know what you're doing. And secondly, they can change because we value things depending on what's happening to us at that time. So again, you have children. So let's say what you valued when you were raising them from the ages of 0 to 5, and how perhaps it was important to be really present, or you're shaping this child, or what you value when you're pregnant, which is different to what you value once you've had children, or what you value when you're studying, which is different to what you value when you have your first job or your fifth job, or you're towards the end of your career, or every stage of life you will value something slightly different. So yes, there are these core values that almost might never change, or you decide they're so important to you that you don't ever change them. And then there are values that are serving you for a period of time. And they are the ones that you might reshuffle or rejig or change because that purpose has been fulfilled.
How do you deal with people who have a different set of values to you that are in conflict to yours? Is that a thing? Example.
Let's say you're married to someone who actually you value safety and security. Could also come from just knowing that you have a good financial base. And so you're a saver. Right? So it's not that you're valuing money as such, but you're valuing security. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with valuing money, but in this case, in this example, let's say you're valuing security and therefore you save. And let's say your partner has a very abundant mindset and is valuing experiences and is very happy to spend your last penny on yet another incredible experience. And you're like, but this is not even giving me peace. I don't want an extra experience. I don't want anything. I just want to know that we have enough and our children have enough and our children's children have enough. And of course, when is enough, you don't know, but you just want to feel safe and secure. So in that case, yes, it's not that you have one person is right or wrong, but yes, you have values and, somehow you have to make a marriage work or you want to bring them together somehow or find a happy medium where both of your real values are being met. So maybe your partner's real values are change or variety or growth or fun or, so the outcome could look the same, as in they're spending on experiences or they have an abundant mindset. But to become clear about what it is that they're actually valuing would be really helpful. Because if you become, if you're able to identify, this is coming from a place of, it could even be coming from recognition. They want to be recognized as, now they're the skier and now they're the mountaineer and now they're the, water Olympic, who knows, those type of. Yeah. So once you become clear, or once they become clear about what's actually going on, you'll be able to be a mediocre or okay saver as well as a spender. Yeah. You can get to that happy medium because you're not being driven by, you're understanding where the root of this rather than just dealing with the symptom.
Do you think then if you're not living in line with your values because you've either not found them yet or you feel like you're not in a position to live in your values because you're not, I guess, maybe confident enough to express them and just truly live by them for whatever reason, whatever might be going on. Do you think that can have a detrimental effect on your health and well-being?
You already know the answer.
Yeah, I know the answer. I want the audience to know the answer, which is why I think it's so important to understand what your values are.
Yeah. It does absolutely degrade your health and well-being because you're going against your own self, your true nature, or your, the core of you. It's really, the ramifications are also can be disastrous. You can feel imprisoned. You can feel. And not just feel, but this is not just a little feeling. This, can become the reality of your life. So it's very, you would expect me to say this, but you feel it too. that this work is fundamental. If you go for any good coaching session or program, therapy program, or anything, or even careers coaching, life coaching, whatever it be, anything that's helping you kind of finesse yourself into your very best self, you would start. Any good person who's working with you would have you start from your values. And if you're working on yourself and you've never, ever, ever thought about your values, then this is most definitely the time to do it. It doesn't take long, but the impact of it is incredible. So, for example, if I'm running a company, if I can do this values work, as in become really clear what my organization stands for, and it's not just about delivering a service or a product, there's something much deeper than that. There always is. And your job is to identify it and then articulate it. If you're able to do that and really have it to be the DNA of the organization, those values to be the DNA, you, out of every, let's say, £100 that you spend, you can save at least 25%, £25 through this work.
Yeah.
So it's a game changer.
I guess it's important to then, in my view, if you know clearly what your values are, is when you go out to find a job or, go to work for a certain company or organization, the values of that organization align with your values as well.
It's so, so, so important. So have you had a career change?
I have, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I left work a long time ago, working full time for a corporation, but then that was because I wanted to take some time out to spend with my children because that wasn't happening whilst I was working full time.
So there's your value speaking right there.
Yeah.
When people go through any kind of career change, they're normally realizing that their values are out of sync.
Yeah.
And they're having to, they'd like to make a change. If your parent became sick, you might decide to make a change. If you're, any kind of key life moment will have you question.
Yeah.
It's really, it's pivotal because otherwise you can live a life of dis-ease. Right?
Yeah.
Not to be at ease, which can lead to all kinds of actual diseases.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I personally think cancer is like a form of stress or a dis-ease.
Yeah.
So there might have been a time in your life where something has happened and you've made a drastic change. You only make drastic changes when you're not at ease and when you have to do something so that it can align back with your values. Can you think of a moment like that?
I think for me, when I left work, that was quite a drastic change and a decision I made. One, I wasn't enjoying work, and I just had kids. I was struggling, I was stressed, I was overworked. And I had two young children. And I was getting bored as well. I wasn't feeling stimulated, and not how I was before the kids, because I had more freedom at work to travel and do different things. And I started restricting myself because I wanted to spend more time with my children. So I would make a point of, starting work early to finish early, to get home, to pick them up, to then, make sure I'm present. But even then that wasn't working because I was overworking and on the phone and doing all these things at the same time as feeding my children, which is when I'd made the decision to leave. And I think it stems from childhood because growing up, I didn't have that. My parents were always out working. I'm the only child. I was left to my own devices. And I always, I used to sit by the window ledge waiting for my mum to come home and just sit there and wait and think she's going to be here in a minute. She's going to be here in a minute. And, I knew roughly what time she'd get back. And I'd see her walk, come out the car. One of her friends would drop her and I'd see her, my eyes would light up, and then I'd come and I'd greet her at the door. And then, the evening went on from there.
Thank God, right? You're probably thinking, thank God she's back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think growing up,
God, that must have been so hard to...
It was, I think, and that is why I wanted to make sure that I was actually there for my kids when they came back from school, or I picked them up from school, because
you didn't want them to have that.
I didn't want them to have that same feeling that I had.
And what you valued was connection. And kind of that closeness. And not having that longing or that loneliness.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And that never-ending wait.
Yeah. And I would almost do that every day.
Yeah. So
apart
connection.
From the weekends.
Well, because you're already connected to the weekends anyway. Yeah. So exactly that that was shaped by your experience. And I'm sure it was present in your life since. Probably your choice to have 3 children, more than one, has come from that. Probably your, like your friendship circle, or the closeness with other people, and especially with your nearest and dearest. You don't want to spend your life working. You want to make sure you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably why I value friendship so much, because I was the only child. I had a lot of, really good friends, and I still value that up to now. And that's really important for me. Yeah.
So that's really a classic case of where your values are unveiled and how much peace and joy it can bring.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I did. It's strange actually how you almost have to try and even understand where your values come from. You start unpicking your past as well a little bit to understand what your childhood was like, what made you happy, sad, and joyful, and these things, and then you get to understand. That's where that came from.
And even though you said you've been thinking about values all the time, suddenly when push came to shove, that was hard. You see, you have to kind of, the truth is we kind of cover things up, or we lie to ourselves, or we try and soothe ourselves.
Yeah.
And you need someone else, or these kind of key questions, to push you a bit further, so that it can come out in the light of day.
Yeah.
And then you can make things make the decisions in a conscious way, rather than your subconscious battling and struggling.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to speak to you about values, because I think it is so fundamental if you're going down the path of really trying to look inward and improve your health. And I think if you know your values and you really try and stick by those values, and a lot of things become a lot easier for you, like you've said. Even if you're stressed out working for a company, like really stressed out because your values aren't aligned. I'm not saying it's easy to leave that role and then go and look for another job. And it's quite hard to find a job where your values are in line quite a lot, especially these days, I think. That's my personal view anyway. But when you're not living in line, like truly living in line with your values, it can cause a lot of stress, and that can lead on to chronic stress and, as you mentioned, disease as well.
Yeah. And it does it in a way that you don't even realise what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So I think, people should definitely look at their values, and your book helps unpack that. And
book and a game. And now we have a card game too.
Oh, you have a card game as well?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Where's that? Where can you get that?
We're working on it. Yes, we're working on it. So at the moment you can contact me, but we're working on having it distributed.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. That would be great. Yeah. Help everyone get there a lot quicker. Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah.
But the book kind of gives you the kind of background and the substance. And
exactly. And what I like about this as well, it gives you an overview of different countries as well, and with what's going on around the world at the moment, I think it sheds a bit of light.
I mean, there is so much geopolitics at play, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to,
And I'm not a mind reader, but all those geopolitical political moves are speaking through the values that I had identified, because these are hundreds and many hundreds of years of building up, and you can see it in their history, and it's a result of their geography, psychology, sociology. All of that is coming out.
Yeah. So then, God, that's led me on to ask another question. I was going to close up there, but I really want to ask this. So, you just said that a lot of this is coming out now. So
always has, but you're seeing it at play.
Yeah, seeing it at play. But from my point of view, I'm seeing it at play with some countries as more of a negative thing, right, rather than something positive coming out of it. And again, there's a lot of things involved with the media and the narrative. Is it true? Is it not true? I mean, I don't know. I'm not there. Fake news, misinformation, disinformation. There's all sorts. And I can't sit here and 100% verify everything because I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not that person. I will really never know. But from my point of view, from what I'm seeing, it feels like there's a lot of negativity coming out. But then how does that translate into these core values, which appear to be really, good and positive and great? It's kind of a bit of a mismatch there, it feels like.
No. All values, even if you were to love 100%, there has a shadow, right? Like anything has a shadow. And it becomes skewed, especially if you don't have other values to balance.
Yeah.
And just because I am focusing on positive values, it doesn't mean every individual in the world is doing that. So I think one of the examples you're speaking of that perhaps we're not allowed to speak of so explicitly is that you might value hedonism. You might value power. You might value
greed,
winning at all costs or at any cost. Or indeed, I don't know if you could value greed. You probably are valuing something there. There's something underneath that. So I would never say, power can be beneficial.
Yeah.
And it can be the opposite. So all of these things, it's the duality of life.
I get that actually, because especially with power, it's how you use that power, how you enforce that power. And that depends on that person.
And what we allow.
Yeah.
I think we're not very courageous right now.
Yeah.
I think, it's pitiful how much, I wouldn't even say we're tolerating, we're ignoring deliberately in order just to keep your own little individual thing running. And when so many global values are being compromised.
But do you think that's because people feel powerless?
No, I think people are being self-serving potentially. We all have agency.
Yeah.
And choice. In fact, what you do definitely have is, one, you have presence. You can decide to be in the here and now every single breath. You have choice always. You can choose to be disciplined and endure and be kind. It's a choice.
Thank you for that. Mandeep, thank you so much for being on the podcast discussing values. And I really hope that whoever's listening, they really start thinking about their values, because I think that can really impact their life in a positive way, I hope, in a big way. So, and of course your book can help you with that, and eventually your cards.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
you
so much.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thanks.